What's up, everybody? Welcome. Welcome once again to a brief taping of the Evo Sosa Show. I, of course, am your host, Evo Sosa, and I just thought I'd turn the camera on a little. Because I got some time, I'm getting loaded, and looks like they haven't started on me yet, but we're going to do a little chit-chat today, and hopefully you dig it. Now, as usual, as per se, I like to tell you guys to hit the like button after the content has been presented to make sure you actually like what I'm saying, okay? Don't just hit it because I tell you to hit it. Hit it because you really enjoy what you're hearing and what you're seeing, or what you're seeing, rather. Let's see here. How should I start this off? Well, you can obviously see the title and see what I'm getting ready to talk about. Now, I'm going to talk about this because I've noticed an uptick in a lot of bigoted, a lot of bigotry. I've noticed an uptick. Maybe it has something to do with Trump being in office. I don't know. I really don't care, okay? But I have noticed it, and ironically, it's not just from white people. It's from Mexicans. I've heard Mexicans say these words, well, not exactly go back to Africa, but go back to where you came from, and we all know what that means, okay? I've also heard white people say it too, a lot online, and one specifically in reality. So, that's what I'm going to talk about today, is that statement of when somebody tells me, or you, if you were born here, to go back to Africa. It's crazy, man. Go back to Africa. I remember when that was first said to me. I was in about third grade at Trapp Elementary School in Rialto, California. And a little rich white boy named Jared was the one who said it to me during recess detention. I was probably around 8 years old, and but that memory is actually still really vivid. I remember feeling confused at that because I've never been to Africa, so why the hell was he telling me to go back to Africa? You know what I'm saying? As a matter of fact, the only thing I recognized about Africa was it was nothing more than a place I could identify on a map hanging on the back wall of the classroom. But it wasn't till, I say, about a year later when I started to see those children's Christian fund commercials. Y'all remember those things? What was that broad's name? Struthers. The shaky ass voice. Sally Struthers. Talking about, for only 70 cents a day and $21 a month, you can save this child, and she be on camera holding on to some emaciated baby with a giant stomach, looking like it's about to bust, right? And then, to make matters worse, the cameraman would actually zoom in and to the face, and the child would be looking like it's 80 years old. It'd be a baby, right? Skin like mummy wrappings. And then they show another one and another one, and they'd always have the same facial expressions, like they were seconds away from death, talking about, let me stop, man, let me stop, baby. Flies crawling in and out of their mouth and all over their eyeballs, man, Damn. Crazy images at that age. I saw that shit and I was like, man, what the hell is that? That's supposed to be where I'm from? That's what I'm supposed to go back to? It wasn't really hard for me to see at that time that something was really wrong with Jared. But it wasn't until around 7th grade, though, when it really kicked in, all right? See, I was a latchkey kid then, and every day when I was walking home from school, some random white dude wearing this big-ass cowboy hat, driving this beat-up Toyota 4x4, would drive by and yell, "Nigger! Go back to Africa." Okay? Now, back then I had two white best friends, Patrick and Mike. And even when I was walking with them, he'd still drive by, nigger, go back to Africa, you know. And it didn't really bother me much, but it would infuriate my white friends. I mean, and we were only kids, but even though we had a level of ignorance, they knew I wasn't from Africa. You know, and one time I remember he drove by and yelled that shit at me, right? And they yelled back at him, fuck you, he's not even from Africa. You know, that made me feel really good, you know. But they couldn't understand why I was so passive towards this happening to me. I mean, they would talk about finding out where he lived and putting feces in his gas tank and chopping off his balls and even killing him, right? I mean, we was some real sadistic little motherfuckers, man, at that age, you know. Then one day, we were walking home together, and I noticed that Pat and Mike was acting different, real strange, right? Something was off about them. I mean, they would walk like way out in front of me, right, and talk mainly amongst themselves. And it was almost whispering. And I kept asking if they was okay or if something was wrong. And they kept saying the same thing over again. Yeah, man, we cool. You know, I mean, I kept, every time I'd ask, yeah, we cool. And you can imagine how off-putting this was to me because I had done nothing until it happened. That cowboy-wearing, shitty truck-driving hillbilly rolled up on us. And this time, he slowed down till about 3 miles an hour, right? And he started to say, nigger! Man, look, as soon as he said that shit, Pat and Mike took off their backpacks, reached inside them. Pat pulled out full cans of Coca-Cola, and Mike pulled out bricks. Man, they started chucking them shits at that white man and fucking his shit up, right? And I stood there and watched them straight ambush this dude. One from the side, one from the rear. It was beautiful. Straight beautiful. Mike shattered the back window. Pat even caught him in the face with a can. And he must have shaken them up too because they were hard. Some of them wasn't even popping upon impact, right? And when Pat caught him in the face with the can, the man was screaming and hollering, ah! Oh, man, that redneck was screaming so loud, yo. And y'all should have seen the way that his damn truck was bucking, right? Bucking like a horse, because it must have been a stick shift, and he couldn't get the clutch to act right. He just grinding gears, you know. And then Pat and Mike took off running. Oh, man. Man, we never saw that dude again after that day. I wonder where Pat and Mike are today, you know? And I wonder what they think now when they hear bigoted whites still telling us to go back to Africa. As for me, I'm still pretty passive about it when it's said, you know. Hell, to be totally honest with y'all, I actually embraced the idea of all blacks going back to Africa. Even the ones that were already here before chattel slavery. You know, packing up, going back to Africa, leaving America as is. I know, that might sound insane to you, but don't worry, let me explain why I feel like this. Let me explain this unrealistic fantasy, okay? Imagine me as the prime minister of all blacks in America. I definitely have a team to help me out with this, to iron this out, but it would look something like this, okay? What I would do is I would organize negotiations with whom runs America at that time and any African nations that contain any residents of white descent. Germans, British, Dutch, French, all of them. Any people of white descent on the continent of Africa, okay? I would get the leaders of the African nations to agree to take any black Americans that want to move there and with the help of the American military, the whites would be removed and transferred to any state in America they choose to go to, which most likely would be the southern region, because, I mean, that's where most of the blacks are, you know? And I would call this the fair deal swap. No, the fair swap deal, yeah. You want all blacks in America to go back to Africa. Fair enough. But you have to get all whites out of Africa into America. We got a deal? Want to shake on it? You know, ain't no way in hell that this can go down, but I'm saying, like, for example, you know what, now I'm not even going to go there. I'm going to go ahead and cut this, because if I continue saying what I'm saying, I'm going to probably get in trouble. Somebody's going to probably flag this, because I could really start to go in on white folks talking about go back to Africa to us who were born here. So, yeah. Just wanted to bring y'all some brief content, you know, and give you something interesting to watch. I know it's not too long, but like I said, I'm trying to get better at this, y'all. We're going to continue to come up with topics, and hopefully you enjoyed this. And bid you guys a farewell. Now you can like the video, and please subscribe to the channel if you will. That way we can get this thing on up, and I can start doing some lives for you guys, and maybe take advantage of this being a possible career. I don't know. I'm not really one to talk too much. I don't see how you guys do it, you content creators. So, yes, it's time to end the video. I bid you guys farewell. Make sure, like I said, you hit the like and subscribe. Salute to everyone that I rock with on YouTube. You know who you are. Peace.